People understand the plight of those fleeing the Middle East, but they also want basic assurances for the safety of this country.
And therein lies the root of America's role in the latest global crisis. Now, the outcry hit a fever pitch this week. GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump's solution to the refugee crisis and protecting the borders from threats, an all-out ban on Muslims entering the country. He made these remarks at a campaign event in South Carolina on Monday.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
This is outrageous, coming from someone who wants to assume the highest office in the land. It is reckless and simply un-American. Donald Trump sounds more like a leader of a lynch mob than a great nation like ours.
Other candidates for president have since distanced themselves from Trump's comments. Whatever the solution, it's agreed that something must be done and fast. According to the nonprofit, nonpartisan group factcheck.org, more than 4 million refugees have fled Syria. By law, the U.S. can admit slightly more than 10,000 in fiscal year 2016. About 850,000 have reached Europe. Now, at least one of the suspects involved in the attacks on Paris got into Europe among a crowd of Syrian refugees using a fake passport. And a spokesman from the Syrian American Council tells us that the violence driving this refugee crisis began long before it made headlines here at home.
They are watching the TV every day, and believe it or not, they are terrified that their family members will be killed by ISIS or Assad.
That's life for millions on the run as their villages have become battlegrounds.
These people are not fleeing for economic reasons. They're not fleeing for poverty or for jobs. It's not an economic migration crisis. These people are literally fleeing because if they don't, they'll be killed.
We sat down with Omar Hassino, spokesman for the Syrian American Council, who says the last thing that Syrian refugees want to do is leave home.
Right now, the debate is about letting them in, but it should more importantly be about helping them stay in Syria by providing a safe place for them to live.
But video from the region shows safety is nowhere in sight, and it's been that way for some time. According to Hassino, Syria's refugee crisis began in 2011, spiking a year later, he says, due to a steady bombardment by the Assad regime.
These barrel bombs that Assad throws out of helicopters, they don't discriminate based on religion or race or ethnicity.
Creating what the UN calls the worst refugee crisis since World War II. And as hundreds of thousands flee to Europe, Parisians scatter following a terror attack there. One of the attackers entering France among Syrian refugees using a fake passport, sparking debate that rippled around the world and across the U.S. over whether borders should be closed to refugees, some calling for zero tolerance. No one gets in.
There will be people that say, oh, you have no compassion, you're so hard-hearted. Let me tell you something, I am. I have compassion for my people, my state, my country.
Ideally, Hassino says that's fine. He says refugees don't want to leave. They want help creating what would essentially be a war-free zone.
Creating a safe zone for these people is the only realistic solution, because even if we took in every refugee that leaves every day, we're not going to be able to keep up. And unfortunately, since the president continues to refuse to take this step, his policies are exacerbating the crisis phenomenally. A safe zone will be the #1 thing that can help these people stay home.
While at the G20 summit in Turkey last month, President Obama said a safe zone would be a bigger commitment than just a no-fly zone and requiring boots on the ground.
A true safe zone requires us to set up ground operations. And the bulk of the deaths that have occurred in Syria, for example, have come about not because of regime bombing, but because of on-the-ground casualties. Who would come in, who would come out of that safe zone, how would it work, would it become a magnet for further terrorist attacks, and how many personnel would be required, and how would it end? Right? There's a whole set of questions that have to be answered there.
Leaving the future of Syrians in their homeland and in others in question. Now, as President Obama tries to push on with his plan to resettle 10,000 Syrian refugees in the U.S. over the next year, individual states are trying to block that arrival. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan met mixed reaction after expressing his opposition to the plan. Maryland now working with the Department of Homeland Security to determine how to move forward.
We're going to make a very reasoned and, careful decision about what we do here in Maryland.
We do have the concern, how do you verify who's coming in, particularly where you have people that are coming in with really just a shirt on their back.
State Department lawyers are investigating if states can really legally block the resettlement of those Syrians. Now, Hogan is one of more than 30 governors who are opposed to accepting Syrian refugees into their states. Barely half a dozen governors have gone on to record on the record, saying that they support the resettlement of Syrians within their state lines.